Like a lot of you out there, my favorite part of attending a wedding is the wedding cake. Yes, it's a beautiful design, but what I really love is the cake itself, especially when the cake is that traditional almond sponge. So good. And I'm going to create my version of that almond cake next on the Sweet Spot. The first step to making our cake is to pre-mix all of our dry ingredients. So I have my flour. I'm going to add my baking powder, baking soda, and my salt. And just take a whisk and just make sure that's all combined. If you've been watching my videos, you know this is a very important step because it ensures that the baking soda, baking powder is thoroughly mixed throughout the cake. The last thing you want is to bite into a slice of cake and have a big chunk of baking powder and have that sodium taste. So really make sure you do this step and really mix all your dry ingredients together. Right, that's done, and we're gonna set that aside and start making our batter inside of our mixer. The first ingredient we need to add to the mixer is our butter. And you're gonna actually cream your butter and sugar together, but I like to pre-cream my butter, meaning I like to mix and smooth out the butter before adding the sugar. You can add them together. You don't have to do these as separate steps. I just like to do it as separate steps because I find that it gives a better distribution of the butter and the sugar. So my butter is creamed and smoothed out. I'm now gonna add my sugar. And this really forms the base for any batter, to really cream out the butter and sugar together. So I'm gonna mix the butter and sugar on medium until it's nice and smooth. It'll resemble a coarse crumble. Right. So that's all done, and let's scrape down the sides of our bowl to make sure we get everything mixed in and combined. So just do a scrape and get all of that off the bottom. All right, and we are ready to add in our egg whites. And because you're just adding an egg whites, you can add it all at one time. So just pour all of them in there. And you're gonna mix this on medium until it's nice and smooth. All right, now that we've gotten our egg whites all combined in there, once again, I'm gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl once again to make sure I don't have any chunks of butter or sugar at the bottom of my bowl. So everything's mixed together. And then we're gonna add in our sour cream. And we're gonna let that mix on medium until it's smooth. All right, we're gonna give our bowl another scrape. Make sure everything's mixed together before we start adding in any of our dry ingredients. Sure. All right. And one last ingredient we need to add to the wet mixture is the magic ingredient, which is the almond extract. And then this will mix pretty quick, so just put it on medium for a second or two until it's fully combined, and then we're gonna move on to our dry ingredients. The almond extract is all mixed in. It smells amazing because now you get that aroma of that almond extract. We're gonna start adding in our dry ingredients, but we're also gonna rotate in our buttermilk. So I'm gonna start by adding a third of the flour. And we're gonna mix that on medium until that's combined, and then add in a little butter. All right, that first addition is mixed. I'm gonna scrape down the sides of my bowl because when you add enough flour, it does stick to the sides of the bowl a little bit at the top. All right. And then in between there, we're gonna put in a third of the buttermilk. and mix that on medium. And you're going to repeat this 2 more times until all of the flour and buttermilk are incorporated. All right, so everything's mixed together. I'm just going to take my spatula and give one last scrape to the bottom of the bowl before we start filling our cake pans. So you can build this cake really 2 ways. You could do a 2-layer cake or a 3-layer cake. Aesthetically, I like a 3-layer cake, but a 2-layer cake works just as well and tastes just as good. This is just my process. It's no scientific method. I use a ladle and put the same amount in each pan. You can pour and measure and eyeball it or measure it out. This is just my process. So we're gonna go ahead and put 2 scoops in each one and just keep rotating until the batter is completely gone. The cakes will go into a 350-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes or until an inserted toothpick comes out clean. A good tip is to always set your timer for the lower time because you never know, your cakes may bake a little faster. It's easier to add time than it is to take away and have an overbaked cake. So I'm going to throw these in the oven. Now that our cakes are done, it's time to start on the almond buttercream. So you're going to take your butter, and yes, it's a lot of butter in this buttercream, and you're going to add that to your mixing bowl. You're going to mix the butter on medium until it's nice and smooth. Once the butter is nice and smooth, you can begin adding your confectioner's sugar. Because there's a lot of confectioner's sugar in this buttercream, I add a little at a time. So you notice I still have my cup inside my bowl with my sugar. I'm going to add 2 cups of confectioner's sugar at a time until it's completely gone. That way I'm assured I don't have any clumps and I have a nice smooth buttercream. When I start mixing, I start on low and then work my way up because I do not want buttercream all over the kitchen. As you can see, I've added all my confectioner's sugar. Now it's time to add the heavy cream, almond extract, and salt. I'm going to start with my heavy cream. I'm going to add about half of the required heavy cream to make sure I don't make my buttercream too loose. And we're going to give that a blend, see what the texture is like, and if we need to add the rest, we'll do so. If not, we have a great buttercream. I can see my buttercream is still too thick, so let's add the remaining heavy cream. And while we're at it, let's just pop in the almond extract and the salt. And then just give this a mix on medium until it's smooth and finish out that buttercream. So we have our almond buttercream all done. Let's start building our cakes. Now, this is totally optional if you want to shave the top to make more even layers. Totally up to you. I do it, you don't have to. These cakes bake pretty flat. I just do it for good measure. So you want to take a heaping amount of buttercream in between each layer and just smooth it out to create a nice smooth base in between those layers. So we've added our next layer, and once again, just put a heaping amount of buttercream right on top of that layer and smooth it out. And I put our final layer on top and doing the same thing. Heaping amounts of buttercream and just smooth it out over the top. So as you can see, I iced the sides, but they may look a little awkward to you. I've decided to do the naked cake trend on this cake, or the naked cake way of icing the cake. It's where the cake has icing around the sides, but it's a little transparent where you can see through it. So what I do is I put a heaping amount of icing on the side and just take my icing knife and just go around and press it into the cake and get as close as possible and remove all the excess icing off the sides of the cake. I make sure to fill every nook and cranny, especially around the bottom. And if you just press and keep going around the cake and removing the extra icing, you'll get this clean, sleek look with pretty much parts of the cake layers coming through, and it's usually the bottom part of the layer that you'll see through. But it creates this beautiful kind of modern decor because I'm gonna pipe some rosettes and different things on top of the cake to give it a little flair. So it's time for my favorite part, which is doing some type of decoration. So with this cake, you could leave it plain. It will taste the same, I promise you. You could leave it just like this and cut a slice and enjoy. Because it reminds me of wedding cake, I kind of want a little flair on it. So I've just chosen 3 different piping tips, one that does a rosette. I'm gonna try this new Russian piping tip and just a little small tip to do just dollops around. And I'm just gonna have fun with it and decorate my cake. Do yours the way you wanna do, have fun. It's a delicious cake. It doesn't matter what the decorations are. As you can see, I decided to have a lot of fun with the piping and really let that wedding cake vibe come to life. Thank you once again for joining me here on The Sweet Spot. As always, I love sharing my recipes with all of you. Click like, subscribe, come back and see me. I have much more to come, and I hope you enjoy this almond cake. Till next time.